Oseo. That's Cherokee. Konnichiwa. That's Japanese. Nong hava. That's in Chinese. I was once married into a Chinese family in Berkeley, and my mother-in-law had a Chinese gift store on University near the campus, and I stopped in there to see her. However, she wasn't there, and another Chinese woman was minding the store, and I greeted her, of course, in Chinese. I said, "No, hello." And she got very upset and drove me out of the store. Subsequently, I learned from my mother-in-law what had happened. I used the wrong inflection. Instead of saying hello in Chinese, I had said to the woman, "You're a frog." Inflection made all the difference. And we'll start with that. I'm going to read this in Japanese, minus the Japanese accent. Jinrui no tasagore toki o tokawazu. At the time of the twilight of humankind, distant frogs. That's a haiku by Matsuo Takahashi. The painting I'm presenting here is a Japanese painting, a painting of the Tao. And you can see all of these things here. This is a very unique Japanese painting. It is a combination of Tao and maybe a little Zen. You start with a little Zen. The shadow is to the rock as the water is to your mind. We start that way. A correspondence that is suggested is the only correspondence. A correspondence indicated is the only identity. Where in China, relation is clearly suggested. In Japan, it is clearly indicated by identity, by aggressively making the finite be the infinite. In the Tao in China, by the way, China, I should say Tao, I'm kind of pronouncing it that way, is Wei, simply is Wei, W-A-Y, Wei. So often with the article it's the Wei. In China, Lao Tzu, anciently, he is saying the Tao that can be spoken of isn't the Tao. But when one points to it, it can only answer not to. That's the way we start with this. This is the great form, the Tao. And this is the Japanese way of indicating the infinite with the finite, the unseizable with what can be seized. Many, if not most, of Japanese paintings have derived from China, one way or another, over a long period of time. There are themes and there are techniques and so forth, and a lot of people emulating. This painting, however, I find to be quite unique and original Japanese. I've never seen any other like it. The character, Chinese character for Tao is this right here. And below it, there is a Taoist or I Ching mirror. In Asia, in all of Asia, by observing and ordering, that is that the parallel mutuality of the continuity is the Tao. And underlying all of Asia's outlook is mirroring. In this mirror, one sees oneself coming out. In the character, right here in the center of this, for the Tao, is Xiang. Xiang means a symbol, something that stands for something, or a mirror. It actually originally meant an omen object. So in the character, it is carrying xiang, that object, that omen object, to see one's self coming out. I have a poem by Michael McClure here. I'm always proud to say that I had been one of his students in college. It was a wonderful, wonderful occasion. He was the absolutely unparalleled master in literature and writing in our time, and he very recently passed away. And this is his poem from Touching Edge, Dharma Devotions from the Hummingbird Sangha. The white chin of the frog beats with his breathing. He is green and pinstriped, and as plain as I am. We are naked and robed in the ordinary storm and waiting for rain. Not too smart and not caring, we are the wise apples. The oval rock makes a place to stand with raised arms. Now I am gold, brown, old, and crabby, solid, and near weightless, shaped like a Buddha, letting it go. So splash back a few drops of rain to wet the frog. Rub it. And you can see the frogs I have here. These are actually Japanese created frogs. You can see the particular character of them. Now I'm going to another section, and that is really with very, very currently Justice Ruth Ginsburg in view, in mind, in feelings, everything. She's practically embodying everything of our time here today. So last week I was relating her with the Women's First Nation known as the Amazons. So I had to put that together there to begin with last week. This week I'm continuing with her, and this way I'm bringing her into the women poets of Japan in particular. And after 1868 in Japan, the government left the feudal age. It really radically changed itself. It very purposely divested itself of Buddhism, which had been so ingrained in it for 1,000 years, and more or less made a state version of Shinto. Along with that, there were a lot of new liberties, especially for women, for education, and so forth. And this kept going. At the same time, in 1868, what made all this happen, of course, was that Japan was suddenly opened to the world and to modernity. And so people in Japan were quick to respond to that in many, many ways. And one of those is the kind of the liberation of women and how that had come about. And I want to start off, with one of those poems from one of these women, Yosano Akiro. She lived from 1878 to 1942. She was a feminist, a pacifist, a socialist, and she was the first time that she criticized the emperor that was ever printed. And this little piece is from the Anthology of Modern American Women Poets, published in New York City, and it's titled The Mountain Moving Day. And it's now very widely known to feminist writers. Let me read that a little bit. The day when mountains move has come. Though I say this, nobody believes me. Mountains sleep only for a little while, that once have been active in flames. But even if you forgot it, just believe, people, that all the women who slept, now awake and move. Along with this time in the early, I don't know, 1911s or maybe it was 1920s, can't remember the exact date, women writers, formed a real feminist group, and it was also called, the Blue Stocking. And Claudia here, she is also an organizer and a member of the Blue Stocking group of women poets in San Diego. It first started in England and then to Boston and then to Japan. So all of this was, a feminist literary movement, and its first magazine, named after the poem, The Mountain Movement magazine, and it was called Saito, meaning blue stocking. The leader, Hiratsuko Waricho, declared in the magazine, "In the beginning, woman was the sun, and she is." I would refer to that of the sun goddess here. This is my painting, my version of a painting to say Amaterasu, which is the mythical sun goddess. And I had weeks ago recounted the mythology of her coming into being, her appearance, which is really the mythical basis for the Japan. And what I'm guessing is that the writer means by woman in the beginning was the sun. And the name, Japan, some kind of a misrendering, European misrendering of Nihon, meaning where the sun originated, rather than just saying the rising sun is the origin of the sun, Nihon, there. So that's a good way to start. Here in my display, what I have down here, all to suggest this, a picture that's actually from this book. This book is translated by Kenneth Rexroth. He's done the Japanese and Chinese translations for us. He was, a major figure for culture in San Francisco Bay Area. I attended his memorial with Vivian, and there was standing room only. I don't remember the exact year that he passed away, but he is really major in all of these. And I put down here things that are all suggesting writing with the Japanese bottle of ink, rice paper, inkwell, and brush. Then I come up here, and this is a brush holder with a Chinese brush. By the way, I had inherited several Chinese brushes from my mother-in-law, which I used avidly for quite a long time. That's one that's left there. And that I wanted to continue, all of this theme in this way here. Here I presented, this is Kazui Kobayashi. She is a photojournalist who had very recently published this book of Pyramid Lake. And in this book, she had extolled Sarah Winnemucca by name Shellflower as the first Native American woman to write and publish a book, Life Among the Paiutes, in both Paiute language and English language. And coincident with Justice Ginsburg being interred into the state capitol, also currently is a statue of Sarah Winnemucca. Also there, a 6-foot tall bronze statue of Sarah has also now was very officially, attended the installation of this statue. So I think that's very, very particular, and to have here Kazuo's picture, I've mounted it on an antique fan, and I want to really include her in this. We are really concerned and really thinking of women, women's movement, and all of the things. We've had many, many women now elected into different parts of the government in this country. And we're now, looking at a yet another woman or a new woman, to sit on the Supreme Court. So all of that is all in here. There is so much, to say, but I don't have the time to conduct a whole lecture or a class on this subject. But just to say how significant the women's movement has been in literature and poetry, and still continuing there. And here I'm reading another poem. Now this is from in the 60s, and this is Sarishi Kazuko. And she would be not exactly 90 years old right now, if she's still alive. Let's hope she is. And in the post-war writing of these women, among many things that were new, one of them is making somebody have somebody speak in the poem that's not the author. And that's going to be showing in this case, I'll kind of give a little clue. So to start out, the anniversary of Samansa's death, with her head swinging like a white lily, a devilish girl who had been dancing to Mary Wells' music. Samansa, a woman behind a no mask, dropped dead. Now, Samansa is speaking. On the 30th of last August, coming back to the night from swimming in the sea, I became unsteady and felt as if I was half in a dream. I realized that I had slept in a casket. When I came to myself in her room, I wonder, is it too young to die? Only 25 years old? I wonder, will there be gay bars in the other world? There must be a lot of gay angels. I wonder, maybe I would prefer hell. How troublesome it all is. I don't give a damn. Under roses, crimsons, and blood, I want to sleep for a while, perhaps forever. On the roof of the beer garden, the sign read, "Closed in case of rain, from 5:30 to 9 p.m., 2,000 yen. My face shining in the neon lights like a malignant ghost, I go dancing in the spring evening." It was long ago, that evening in spring, about the time when I was still alive. I love Marlene Dietrich and burn an incense stick to her picture in the fragrance of roses. To the music, Two Lovers by Mary Wells. After all, I have never had a lover. In this world, neither a heterosexual man nor a homosexual woman. I have lived between one world and another world. I've just been, maybe, an invocation to Buddha. This is the anniversary of my death in an ecstasy every day since I have been alive. It shouldn't be like this. But the fact is that people exist who think of the anniversary of their deaths as hobbies. Tomorrow is supposed to be the anniversary of my death. Tomorrow I'm supposed to have been alive once upon a time. Now to bring it up here with Mary Oliver, since we have just had the autumn equinox, and here she has a poem for that, the song for the autumn equinox. In the deep fall, don't you imagine the leaves think how comfortable it would be to touch the earth instead of the nothingness of air and the endless freshets of wind? And don't you think the trees themselves, especially those with mossy, warm caves, begin to think of the birds that will come, 6, a dozen, to sleep inside their bodies? And don't you hear the goldenrod whispering goodbye. The everlasting being crowned with the first tuffets of snow. The pond vanishes, and the white field over which the fox runs so quickly brings out its blue shadows. And the wind pumps its bellows, and at evening especially, the piled firewood shifts a little, longing to be on its way, like a red fire, but burning as it will. Thank you, everybody.